how the African imperialist setup works on the African continent. I still enjoy people to get it, you know. And so we go to our final story, which is Mauritania, a beacon of, and it goes back to what you were talking about with regards to the Sahel. So this takes us back to the tip of Africa. And you would, let's see, it goes again. It comes from The Economist. I wonder why they're featuring too much today. Mauritania is a beacon of stability in the coup-prone Sahel, but disorder is knocking at its door. Now, it says Mohamed Ould Ghazouani seemed an unlikely stalwart of stability, president of Mauritania since 2019. The former general has participated in no less than 2 of the 6 coups that has shook the country in the first 5 decades after its independence from France in 1960. In the first putsch, he helped boot out Mohaya Ould Sid Ahmed Taya, who had ruthlessly repressed people for 2 decades after himself seizing power in a coup. In the second, he helped topple the country's first democratically elected president and replace him with his old friend, Mohamed Ould Abdel Aziz, who then went on to win 2 terms as president. Yet, as defense minister, then president, he's played an influential role in ousting Al-Qaeda in the Maghreb, an Algeria-based jihadist group that launched a series of deadly attacks in Mauritania between 2005 and 2011. Hold that thought here. A combination of community outreach, mediation with Islamist and military modernization has uprooted extremism. Mauritania has been free of terrorism for over 13 years due to his winning second term in the presidency, scheduled for June 29, which the UN reckons will be free and fair. Okay, so now we trust the UN. Though Mauritania has left coups and behind, okay, there is a part here, which again, like you said, sometimes we have to listen to what is not being said.
Right.
Which has booted out Western troops and UN peacekeepers, brought in Russian mercenaries instead, has fueled the violence. Mauritania and Chad has been forced to disband the G5 Sahel, a 5-country anti-terrorist, after military regimes in Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali withdraw. Over to you, sir.
Well, I mean, I'm sure listeners now become adept at detecting these things. And regardless of what this story is about, they see that it's repeating something that was in an earlier article.
Yeah.
Coups in Africa equals bad thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We quoted the president of Botswana saying that, right?
Yep.
In the conference in Botswana.
Yep.
By the way, a conference of generals, right? In
Correct.
Botswana.
Mm-hmm.
And now, in this article, dealing with a different country, we're hearing the same thing again. Coup in Africa equals bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
Although it does not continue and say, unless it's a coup that we like and that we played a role in. Like the one in Chad, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the one in Gabon.
Correct.
Right? So those are not mentioned. Not even mentioned. No mention of Gabon. No mention of Chad. And both had coups. And both supported by the West. Right?
Yeah.
The level of disingenuous. So what they're not saying anything that is not true. It is what they leave out is really what kills you. And they talked about this insurgency that's really torn up the region, particularly since 2010 and 2011. Now, is this not the height of irresponsibility? To go to an origin year and not explain what had happened at 2010 and 2011. You know, the level of dishonesty is mind-boggling. It's chilling to those of us who are in the know. But to people who read casually, oh, everything they said is true. It did start in 2010. I remember the news reports of all these killings escalated out of 2010. Ask yourself, what happened 2010, 2011? We discussed that earlier. That's when NATO killed Gaddafi and unleashed all those weapons. So it didn't start because those insurgents started it. It started because they killed Gaddafi. The weapons became available. Then those insurgents started it. You see? But when you pick the narrative to start from where you want, when you can go to South Africa and history begins after the May 29, 2024 election, and not the arrival in the 17th century from people who stole your land. Then you can tell any story, of course. If I can pick and choose where I begin the narrative. I'm in command. So we must not surrender where the narrative starts. It's very critical what was happening at that time, particularly when they want to press a particular narrative. Look at their start date. You see, that's one lesson that I suggest every listener retain. Look at the start date. Go back. The issue of the insurgents. 2010, 2011.
You will find that.
That's when NATO, nobody is now referring to that decisive, destructive NATO war, which changed dramatically the history of that entire North Africa, Sahel, and West Africa and Central Africa region in a very destructive way. But no, because then they would have to take blame for it. Libya is on fire today. Libya is like a failed state today. But they blame it all on the factions that are fighting in Libya without telling us before NATO dropped a single bomb on Libya and then dropped the bombs for like 9-10 months in a row. Libya, compared to every other African country, was economic paradise, Yep.
And I would also like to, the bit where they said that there is the Al-Qaeda base, military base in Algeria. That is a figment of somebody's very colorful imagination. The only base in the southern tip of Algeria happens to be the one that has been there since 1976. And it hosts the Western Sahrawi refugees who were expelled from Western Sahara by Morocco and Mauritania by claiming Western Sahara. And Western Sahara now remains disputed. There could have been an election in 1992, but they were being, Morocco was playing hard.
It's not even disputed. It's occupied. It's occupied.
Sorry.
Illegally. Right.
I'm using, you see, I've been reading too much Western press.
Yep.
So, yes, it's
and Morocco
occupied.
is, of course, backed by the French,
Yes. So they've occupied Western Sahara since 1976, December 25th, 1976, in fact. So it goes without saying that if you do not go back in time to see what has transpired before, you're inclined to run away with a narrative thinking the people are just, headless, mindless, thoughtless people that need to be shepherded. No, there is a reason why we have issues like this on the ground. And from time to time, when you have headlines like this, Morocco is a beacon of stability in the coup-prone Sahel. You have to ask the question, what made it coup-prone, which is what Comrade Alimade has just explained to us. And yes, again, I thank the good comrade coming through. Next week, we shall return to our regular schedule time, which is 7 to 8 Eastern on Wednesday. And owing to, issues, we had to shift it over to today, but next week. But again, thank you all for coming through. And again, if you find value, and do like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so that you get notified that we're having similar type conversations.